Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is Monday, April 3rd. So let's just get right into it. Last week, very low volatility week overall. It was a weird one last week. We're going to do our 4 hour sweep. Let's just get into it. Let's just jump right into it. Butt corn. It's high still. It's up. Obviously, this had a lot to gain on the SVB and Signature Bank mess. I think that was part of the hype there on why this is back up. There's a couple levels higher when we're watching. Want to watch above that consolidation anywhere in the low 30s. I don't know. I know what I'm going to do. It's just me personally. Historically, this tends to kind of sell off before the halving. You end up getting this big dump before the halving. Everybody loads up the truck, and then moving a couple months into the halving, it tends to go on a run. Historically, that's just what happens, like literally every time. As you get this like false move, the Judas candle that kind of tricks you into going long, and then you have this sell off that breaks the low historically, and you can look at the chart and see it. Going into the halving, which is coming in 2024. And then right before the halving comes, it starts the bull run. And again, the halving, every time the block reward halves, miners are going to be paid half of what they were paid before. So just keep that in mind. As Bitcoin progresses through its life cycle, it is designed to die. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. From a programmer's perspective, it is literally designed to die. That doesn't mean it's going to happen now, though. Unless they make some major changes. If they make some major core changes to the fundamentals of how Bitcoin works, then that could be different. But as it sits now, it's the ugly truth. So right now, I'm going to be looking to see if it'll go a little bit higher. I would be cool with that. Be looking to see if it'll dump a little. I'll try the money above that shelf there to see if we can get some kind of crazy pullback going, a couple months into the halving. Historically, it tends to sell off. It's already up quite a bit, and I think it did gain a lot from this bank stuff. Good game. I don't really have an opinion on it right now, a bias, because we're just sideways. And again, this is just macro structure stuff here. We're not, looking at 1 minute chart things. Just macro structure, what's going on, what are we looking at this week? What's likely to happen this week, basically, is kind of the point of the 4 hour sweep. We'll do our beginning of the week analysis, and if you've been following along, we're mostly right. We have an incredibly high accuracy rate with our 4 hour sweep on overall direction and market movement. Sorry about that. So Buttcorn, it's neutral right now. It's in a range consolidation, but it is high. And again, like I said, we're watching liquidity above that consolidation. That there's going to be a lot of shorts that are going to get stopped out or change their positioning back in this consolidation. I think a lot of those longs are already stopped out. But anybody who is short in there, this could change things. We'll see if it goes higher. I'll be watching like 31-ish, 32-ish. We'll see what happens. That's less important right now than this. The dollar. What's going on here with the dollar? Structurally, we're down a lot. What we called that shark fin off the bottom too on the dollar back before. We absolutely nailed this whole thing. We have destroyed this and the short off the top. We have been way on top of this whole thing the entire time. Right now, it's just in a consolidation. We have a pretty well-defined range here, and we'll just assume that we're in this kind of range boundary here. We'll just theoretically say sellers on the top, buyers on the bottom, right? Without getting too deep in any kind of strategy, we'll just look at, just the reality of the market structure. It did make a move up over this last week. Good game. It's pulled back a little bit, obviously, right here. Generally, this kind of thing, you're going to be looking for it to pull back up and retrace. So as this pulls back up a little bit, we're going to be watching center mass right there. Won't get into the details, but as this pulls back up, we'll be looking for potentially some kind of a distribution. And honestly, I would be more interested to see how the next candle closes. As it sits right now, it's probably going to be a weaker dollar bias. We'll see what happens with the equities market today, see if that actually holds. Man, voice is already gone. We'll see what happens here. I want to see how this candle closes here in 48 minutes. If the next one pulls up, I'm going to be, only thing I care about is, does it reject somewhere? Does it pull up and reject and come back down? Does it fail to go higher? Then that may give me an idea that maybe we are making a lower high and we're going to come down. But if this whole thing goes all the way back up to the top like that, then maybe something else is going on. So as it sits here, I'm going to try to watch and see what happens. It may be choppy on the dollar. My guess is that on the open of the next candle, it's going to try to pull up. So we don't really want to be short dollar necessarily from here. And it's the from here, the relativity part. From here, it may not be the best idea to enter right this second. It may not be the entry, but we're going to watch this today. It is Monday. We got some events this week. We got Aussie rates coming. We got Kiwi rates coming. We got NFP. The ADP NFP battle is going to happen this week, later in the week. We got a couple things going on. I think there's like ISM manufacturing PMI or something today. That's just, whatever. We'll see. We'll watch for volatility, but I would be more interested to see how this candle closes. Generally, it'll tend to retrace a little bit back up through a big dump like that. And the question is going to be how this next 4-hour candle closes. So just keep in mind that it is Monday. On the dollar, yen. We've been in this big consolidation. It's come off the top. Been all over this. Been all over the whole thing. Really good analysis and trading lately overall. This last week was a mess. The yen's down a lot. It is back into some previous buying and structural inflection point here. If you look at this across, this is kind of in an inflection point, where highs have turned into lows and vice versa. So, and we're down a lot. We've had a multi-day drop. This finally came up off the low. I was kind of looking for it to bounce a little earlier than that, but it didn't. So now we got to wonder how much farther down this is going to go. However, what I don't want to do is start selling this at the bottom of a consolidation. We're just looking at the yen as an index, as a currency index. I don't really want to be selling the yen down here. If you're trying to figure out what GJ is doing, what pound yen's doing, then you kind of need to understand what direction are we traveling as an index, right? So skip it for now. It's at the bottom of a range consolidation. I could see this putting in some lower volatility candles and kind of struggling on the low here. And then maybe later on in the day or tomorrow, we'll see what happens. But it could be a thing. It's not the best thing right now. So we'll watch that. I got messy charts here. Aussie dollar. And again, we're trying to figure out what are the next 3 or 4 candles going to look like. Like we have this candle. We're about to get our 5 a.m. candle. Our 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. is after this one. Then our 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then our 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. market close. So we have 3 candles left on the daily candle today. 3 of 4-hour candles left. So on the 4-hour chart, we're trying to figure out what are the next 3 candles likely to look like. What is the likely direction of the next 3 candles on the 4-hour chart at this time of the day at 4 a.m. Eastern? Got a little reversal here potentially. This kind of thing will normally let it close, and just like we were just talking on the dollar, likely to pull back on the next candle, right? This is Aussie dollar. You're going to get the inverse movement there. What it looks like here, and the Aussie is strong this morning. We got a morning star reversal here. at kind of the bottom of a range. Again, like if you wanted to look at it this way, just virtually, logically, imagine that there's a range here. Assuming that we close like this here in 43 minutes, it's likely to pull back a little bit on the next candle. I think the question is whether or not it's going to slingshot the other way. But it's just very likely, even with these morning stars, it is a kind of a bullish reversal. It's a reversal type of price action. The price action that this represents, not that the candlestick pattern matters, but the price action that it represents, this is generally a good sign of some upside. However, on the open of the next candle here, assuming that we close here like this, a great close, by the way, assuming that we close like this, it's likely to pull back a little bit. So when it does, we're going to be looking for an entry on the pullback. If we already have an upside bias and say, look, this looks like it's going to reverse and maybe it's going to end up a little bit higher at the top of whatever range, logically you can kind of deduce from this. If we're going to end up a little bit higher, probably, then we're not going to buy the top of this candle, right? We're just going to, if we already have a directional bias, we're just going to wait until it meets our requirements, right? We're just going to wait and try to get a better deal on it. We already have our bias. So what we're trying to do at this point, the next step, is to try to get the best deal on that we can. So we'll watch levels within our range tool on the group side. We'll watch levels here on Aussie dollar. I've already got it marked because it's an interesting thing to watch. So probably going to get some upside on Aussie dollar here. On Aussie pairs, we'll watch Aussie dollar. There's another Aussie pair that we're going to talk about that's better than this. Keep the Aussie in your mind for now. Euro dollar. Same situation. It's an inverse of the dollar. We've already identified that the dollar is probably going to pull back a little bit on the open of the next candle. Same thing here. You kind of got this little roll under. It's kind of a little morning star action here. This is either a reversal or some kind of a consolidation, right? When this kind of thing happens, it's showing some signs of bullish activity on this 4-hour candle. We got 41 minutes to close. Assuming we close something like this, same thing, we're going to be looking for some kind of a pullback. And then we'll see. We'll watch it, and we'll watch the direction and rate of the euro relative to the dollar. Pretty simple stuff. We'll get to all that. Next. Here you guys can see the chart too, and not my ugly mug. Euro yen. The yen's been pretty crazy this last week. It's made a very sharp move. It was one of the only movers last week. The yen and the CAD were the two big movers. The rest of the market was pretty much dead flat. 4-hour wise, again, what's likely to happen over the next few candles? We're in a likely distribution here at the top of this range, unfortunately, and that may change. We've made the move up off the low and it's just kind of distributing sideways. Again, we're looking at the next 3 candles after this one, so we'll watch the yen and see what's up. But right now, just keeping it real, we're in between a swing high and a swing low. We'll call that, possibly even that. So we're kind of right in the middle. And again, logically, from the middle of a price action range between a swing high and a swing low, you have equal opportunity to get stopped out both ways. What I call disproportionate risk versus reward. There is no disproportionate risk versus reward. This is neutral. This is a neutral RR here. If you went long or short, you've got an equal distance to the swing high or the swing low to make a new high or a new low. So that's generally not what we want. We want to try to stay out of the middle. In general, just try to stay out of the middle or run a strategy that capitalizes on this type of price action. This would be generally a good place to start the smart grid on the bot, a range expansion potentially on the bot right here, depending on how you have it set up. If you're looking back, for the highest high and the lowest low of the last, 24 hours or something, you'd have a range like this. And whenever one of these breaks, it'll take the reversal. Hey, welcome. welcome. Yeah. So, Anyway, one of these, it's kind of right in the middle. So just explain why. Maybe wait and see what's up with euro yen. And again, these are 4-hour candles. Euro pound, just really nothing to say here. The euro and the pound have been moving in the same direction, and they are moving in the same direction again today. That's generally not a great thing. It's not a good sign for volatility. When two components of a pair, the euro and the pound, are both traveling in the same direction at the same rate, that means there's very little relative volatility between those two components of the pair. And you're looking for things that are traveling in two different directions or back toward each other maybe, but in opposite directions, not in the same direction, we'll put it that way. When two components of a pair, the currency indexes themselves, the indices, like the euro index and the pound index measured against all other currencies, when they're both gaining at the same time, like they are right now, you tend to have very small, choppy candle movement that manifests as chop on the chart, to be honest. So we're not really interested in this one right this second. However, I do like to know whether the euro or the pound is stronger or weaker, so I know how to allocate capital against other things. Like if I'm going to say, okay, wait, we got something coming on the Aussie, and the Aussie looks like it's going to make a move. Am I going to take euro Aussie or pound Aussie? Right? So we'll use euro pound to try to make a determination there sometimes. However, right now is probably not a good time. Again, won't spend too much time on this, but you can see the last point where your sellers were correct in the move and have not been stopped out. You can see your point where the buyers have held. This is our effective trading range right now. We're right smack in the middle. Don't diddle in the middle. Lol, giggity. Next, Euro Aussie. Euro Aussie. This is one that we're definitely watching. I don't know what that short was, but definitely watching this one. This one right here will get me excited. This is what I'm talking about right here. When I'm talking about trades, this is what I'm talking about. We're breaking the global swing high back here. We broke the global swing high. Just put this into perspective. I mean, we're way up. We're like, I think it was 7%. We just talked about this on the group side. This is up 7% in 60 days. I think it was 63 days. No, different pair. It's saying it was Euro pair, but it wasn't this one. 14%. Okay. Ridiculous. These are 4-hour candles, but I think it was actually, 7% in like a couple months or something. And even just locally, like the last 13 days, we're up quite a bit. That's a lot for a currency. I think it was like something like 7% in the last 60 days, which is crazy. Yeah, that was it. I'm pretty sure it was this, but we're on this big, huge high. This big, crazy high up here. Big peak high, and down, peak high, and down, peak high. We're on a new high here. Eventually, this thing's going to start getting tired out, and it's going to make a monster move to the downside to the tune of, 300 or 400 pips minimum. These are the kind of things I like to see. Euro Aussie is way up here. Going to be looking to sell the high of the day every day until this thing eats dirt. We talked about, won't go into what we talked about earlier, the structural move that's likely to happen here. We talked about this on the group side. We'll go over that again in a little bit, but there's a move that's likely to happen here. We're likely to get a big dump and then a struggle move back up and then another second leg down. So we're looking to sell this 100%. It's marked for a reason. Euro Aussie is going to be a good trade. Skip it. Euro Kiwi. As far as right now, hold on one second. We'll go back. Again, as far as the local of what's likely to happen over the next 3 to 4 candles, it's hard to make a determination. Again, we're right in between a swing high and a swing low. Just to finish this out, we're right in between. We're in a consolidation. There's not really a lot of directional bias that can be gained from this. We are coming back into buyers here soon. So we'll see what happens here within a day trading context. We'll see if we bounce here at the bottom, but structurally, we're looking for a monster here. We're going to catch a whale on this one. Euro Kiwi, same, kind of the same. And again, we do have rates this week. We have a 25 basis point rate hike on the Aussie and the Kiwi coming over the next few days. NASDAQ's dropping, by the way, in profit. We're short NASDAQ this morning. Euro Kiwi range. It's a range consolidation. There's really nothing to say here. Sellers on the top, buyers on the bottom. Very easy if you start to see it that way. We're right in the middle. No trade. Euro CAD. Awesome short from Friday. We're probably tracking that block right there at the time. We had a very good short last week on this. I don't know what all this is, but it's been a while since I've used this this chart. Yeah, so we had a really good short on this last week. We caught pretty much close to the top and ran it down, closed out of it. I'm not in this short anymore. However, if you look at where it is, like, it's not a bad idea to be short on this. EuroCAD, it's marked for a reason. We're way, way, way up. I remember nailing that too. Shark fin, boy, we nailed that one. Yeah, so, and again, these are 4-hour candles. This is macro structure stuff, but we're down a lot. So what we don't want to do is start selling the bottom down here. We've got some buyers that have held the market down here, and we're going to watch that. We're very close to this. We're very close to this point where buyers have held. You know, it did tag in right here. So there's going to be some layered zones down here, and we could refine this down on one, you know, smaller chart, smaller time frames, and do that kind of thing. We'll do this stuff on the group side, but we're going to be looking for some retests lower possibly on this. I wouldn't be buying into this necessarily yet, unless we would have caught the bottom. If I would have caught the bottom, I would still be in this long. I'm not going to enter it long now. I want to see how this candle is going to close, because I know from experience that if we get a full-bodied shift that has shifted a trend somewhere, like we've been down and now we get a big green candle, the likely move on the open of this next candle is going to be back down a little bit, even to just pull back a little bit. So entering now may not be the best idea. I want to see how this is going to close. However, there may be a day trade long here, so we're going to watch it. It's marked for a reason. Next, pound yen. We'll try to move through this a little quicker. Pound yen, not a fan right this second. It's a consolidation. It's up a lot. Watching the yen, big, huge range expansion. This going to be watching this week. We have lower lows and higher highs. So think about the distance that this has had to travel in a short period of time just to make that move. So this is statistically tired right now. She's running out of juice. So we don't want to be long here. We don't want to weight our bias to the upside necessarily. Way up here on the high, knowing that the yen is likely to pull back up a little bit at some point. It's way down. We don't know when that's going to be. But again, same story here. Had a lot of this last week. We're right in between a high and a low. I mean, just about as equal as you could get. So what we don't want to do is take a heavy position here in one direction or the other. And again, we have a big, strong candle. We've had 2 in a row, 8 hours to the upside. When this closes, it's likely to pull back a little bit. So I don't want to enter long here, if that makes sense, on pound yen. Probably not a good idea, right? It's just not. So we're right smack in the middle of our effective trading range at the moment. We never tapped into this, which is interesting. We got some buyers here that have held the market and have not been stopped out at break even. Above that, we're looking at a swing high. So, and I know we got a big macro level up here that hasn't hit, that we've been watching for a while. No trade. I would rather be, the aggressive move would be long from lower, but not from here, to see if it'll go and break the high one more time. However, every time this makes a new high, I'm actually going to be scaling into it the other way. So basically no trade right now. Pound yen, is probably not the best thing to be trading today. It's just not it right now. It's not in a good place. Pound dollar had a really good short on this on Friday. Killed that. Caught this on Friday. Just kind of flew under the radar. Nailed it. 100 plus pips. I've already closed out. I've already hit target for the day. Honestly, I'm so I'm already, I hit my $500 target from Friday's trades. It was gold short, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Murdered that. Everybody was buying gold on Friday. You know, I was just keeping my mouth shut. Huge trade short on gold from Friday's high, in Euro Yen. But I've already hit target, and I'm looking to do it again. I'm looking to actually start scaling into something else. I'm just looking for that thing. It's still very early Monday. Pound dollar. Again, knowing that the dollar is likely to pull back a little bit. This is a good candle. The pound and the euro are both very strong today. So that's a thing. Good morning, guys, by the way. Good morning. Try to hurry up, get through our 4-hour sweep here, and then we'll get back to the group side of things as quickly as we can before that 5 a.m. candle opens, our new 4-hour candle coming. So anyway, pound dollar. We've already kind of identified that the dollar is likely to pull back a little bit on the open of the next candle here in a few minutes, which is a thing. Big, nice candle here. I mean, it's a good candle. However, let's see what happens on the next one. Just keeping it real here. We got a bunch of higher highs. Mr. Slithery the snake is slithering up the mountain. Goes up the mountain, down the mountain, up the mountain, down the mountain. Higher up the mountain, down the mountain. Goes higher up the mountain and down the mountain. So just remember that we're way up here. Eventually, this is going to start to chill out and make some equal or lower highs, and then probably take a dump. So, you know, zoom out and look at it. This is probably just a range high here that hasn't developed. This is just a range consolidation on the macro that hasn't developed. We're very likely, you know what I mean? Like if you see the markets this way, you won't unsee it. You can just immediately know what's going on instantly. So what we don't want to do is buy this up here, right? Unless you got some shorter targets in a daily context, that's fine to day trade it. But what we're really looking for is to sell the high of the day every day until we get that monster. So right now, this probably just going to kind of consolidate and grind a little bit. We'll take a look at it in a little bit on lower time frames. This just may not be the one here on a pound dollar. Oh, come on, Nas. Nas is looking better. The dollar is pulling back a little bit right now. This just may not be great. It's a good candle. Let's see what the next one does. It's hard to get a determination really on a bias here. At some point, I'm sure this is going to try to retest a little bit higher. I'm just not really interested in going YOLO on this long until we can figure out what's going on. Pound CAD, we talked about this. Had a great short on this on Friday. This was part of the basket. This one meets all the requirements of, you know, somewhat of a cycle range high. Same thing. Big potential range here. We already know where our bias lies. We're still on the top end of this range. So what we're not going to be doing is heavily buying into this. However, depends on where it is. We do have some buyers coming in here. We're likely to get some settlement right in here as all these buyers get stopped out at break even. There's a big gap in volume below that. I would probably wait and see if this is going to get broken. And if that gets broken, it'll probably pick back up a little bit and make another lower high. This feels to me like, just from experience, that there's going to be a range put into here. And I would be careful with this. I'm not buying into this right now, 100%. I would be watching the low of the day, and anything below this spike low back here. This is exactly the kind of thing that'll happen. It'll dump down in here, just barely smack that low, and then pick back up. So there may be some like rubber band day trades coming in here over the next day or two. So right now, this has already dropped off the high. If I was short, I would probably stay in it. And when it broke the low, When it broke this current low right here, I would just probably close the short, depending on what your goals are, because realistically, like this could be a big short, like from Friday's entry. Like we talked about this last week, waiting for this. We were just waiting for it to roll over, and now it's starting to do it. And if you were short up here, again, these are 4-hour candles, for swing trade, I'm not really big into swing trading for like weeks or anything like that, but you could be looking at significant pips here on pound CAD. So what we're really looking to do is on the pullbacks, we're going to get these pullback days eventually over the next few days. We'll be looking to sell the high of the day on this in anticipation of the rollover lower high. If this comes up here and distributes and fails and then goes and tries to do that, that's exactly the kind of thing that happens. So that's what we're going to look for. Good game on the short on Friday. I think it was like a $70 gain on that, on pound CAD. I remember looking at it. Pound Swiss, boy, what a mess. It's been a mess for a while. Pretty ridiculous consolidation here ever since the Liz Truss debacle with Nord Stream pipeline, where it was leaked from Liz Truss's phone that potentially the U.S. and England, it was really England, had to do with the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. So it was leaked from her phone, and all of a sudden she's gone. Go figure. This is when that happened, when the pound dropped that crazy amount, and it's been sideways since then. I think it was like September or something. Yeah. So it's been sideways since then. This one's been weird. The Swiss franc has been weird. But the pound and the Swiss franc on higher time frames are generally making the same directional moves with slight variations, noisy. But right now, nothing really to say on this one. I don't trade this one a lot because it hasn't been behaving very well lately. Just quickly, where's the point where buyers and sellers have not been stopped out? On the downside, we're going to be watching something back into there. On the upside, this or higher, but realistically, we're in a range right now. If you really wanted to set up an effective trading range where something like this, guess where we are? Right in the middle. Guess what we're not going to do? Trade it. Pound Aussie. Different situation here. Also, very interesting chart. Again, these are 4-hour candles. This is absolutely dumb high. Ridiculous. So we are 100% looking to sell the high of the day on this. This was another one we caught on Friday. Pound Aussie from Friday. Killed it. Just caught the top of this and just short, and look where it is. If you're still in this, mine, again, I closed my basket out, but we're on a big, huge peak higher high in the macro cycle. This thing is in the clouds right now. Pound Aussie is one of those that we're watching every day just because of where it is. There are some massive trades coming on this. Here's the issue right this second. Just logically, where are your buyers and sellers? Just logically, just setting up just this very simple range. You got buyers in the bottom, sellers on the top. We're in the juice here. We're in the hamburgerjuice.com right now. So don't take my domain name. I still haven't got it yet. I think I'm going to actually buy that one. hamburgerjuice.com. This may be something. This may be something here. As far as a day trade is concerned, and we'll look at this on lower time frames and where are we within our range, our strategy, our entry and exit strategy. So price action wise and structurally, we're kind of at the bottom of a range here. So maybe there might be something here. What will generally happen is we're only 19 minutes away from closing this candle, and we still have 3 more candles, right? We've got our 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., our 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and our 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. market close. We have 3 full 4-hour candles left on the daily chart, or within our before our daily close. So what may happen here is this may dip a little bit and have this little small bodied candle here. It's possible, and then rip back out of here. So we have a potential for there to be some kind of retracement here, and it may run up something like that. It may make a lower high and fail. It may run all the way back up, and depending on what that does, maybe we got something here. Eventually it's going to drop, but we don't know if it's going to be today or not. We'll look at this and do some more investigating on this. Mark pound Aussie, we'll look at it, but where it is right now, let's see where it is within the range tool, and we'll do that on a group side here in a minute. There could potentially be a relief rally, a range low, basically just a bounce off the bottom of the range. Now how far is going to be the question. Pound Kiwi, kind of the same thing. This is really starting to get there. It's starting to die out, and you can see the contraction. This is really contracting here, and this is what it generally looks like before that happens. Some people call this a bull flag. I see it differently. Depends on where it is in the cycle. Generally not going to go long here. Very, very rarely would I go long on something like that. Reduced volume and progressively reduced volatility over time tends to resolve to the downside and not the upside statistically. Sometimes it'll pop up. It depends on where you are in the cycle. We're not low here. We've been up quite a bit. We do have rates coming. We have a rate hike inbound, I believe, Tuesday night, I think, for the Kiwi. It'll be an Asian session before Wednesday morning. In theory, a rate hike would be a stronger New Zealand dollar, which would pull this down. So in theory, we'd be looking for something like that on pound Kiwi. So just keep that in mind. We have a range contraction here, progressively reduced volatility. We're in a contracting market, not an expanding market. It's generally not what I'm interested in. I want markets that are expanding and have potential for longer runs and extensions, and retracements off of those extensions. But right now in a contracting market, it's not the best thing. I would be looking to sell the high of the day every day on this until it drops a little bit. Just me personally. No trade here. I'll wait. I'm not going to buy it to see if it pops higher, but if it does, I would probably be taking it the other way personally. We'll come back to that because we do have rates on the Kiwi this week. This is interesting. Aussie yen. Speaking of bull flags, this is the kind of thing where maybe a little different. I don't really think of the market that way, and like bull flags and that kind of traditional charting. I don't do that. I don't really do that, but I don't do that at all. It's just me personally. There's nothing wrong with it. What I do is I see markets in blocks of price that step up and down, because that's how order books work, and that's how moving money in large amounts works. So what we got here is we do have a range that's starting to develop here on Aussie yen. We'll see what's up with the yen. Again, it's right in the middle. It's not great. I mean, basically you got a high here, just very simply, no G13 classified strategy here. This is just very simple logic. We're near the top of a range. I'm not going to be buying a big green candle here that's at the top after moving all the way up at the top of the range. We'll look at it within the algorithmic range on a range tool and see what's up with this. There are two types of ranges in my mind. We have price action ranges, and then we have algorithmic ranges, which are projected ranges that have not been fulfilled yet. Very different type of thing. Right now within the price action range, it's likely a range consolidation. We'll see what happens when we get to the top. The Aussie has been strong and could potentially pull back a little bit. So if that happens, it would make sense for this to come back down, or if the yen gets strong. Again, if the yen bounces off the bottom of the range that we were talking about, there's a potential here for some kind of 4 to 8 hour pullback, which is a day trade, right? So maybe we'll take a look at this and see if this matches up with any levels here. So Aussie yen's a maybe. I wouldn't focus on it, but it's a maybe. This is interesting. CAD yen. This has been up quite a bit. We caught the bottom of this, by the way, when that happened. I wish I was still in that. Took pound yen and CAD yen in the wicks on the low. I remember that trade, and I wish I would have kept it. This, we're in the point here where your sellers were correct in the move and have not been stopped out until now. So there's liquidity here. There's activity happening. There's some settlement going on. Oh, that coffee's good. Caramel coffee. Yeah, so we'll watch this and we'll see if there are any major levels here on the range tool on CAD yen. We'll mark that one to see because of where it is. It's in an interesting spot after being up a lot. Like, this has made a very sharp move all the way up, coming off of a range expansion. This has broken the low here. We've come all the way back up. I would be watching for a short here on CAD yen, 100%. Skip it. For now, we'll look at it on the range tool. Watch CAD yen though. Aussie CAD. This one. This is the one with the Aussie. Mr. Slithery the Snake is slithering down the mountain. Goes down the mountain and up the mountain. He goes farther down the mountain, then up the mountain. He goes farther down the mountain, then up the mountain. He goes all the way farther down the mountain. Hand a 5-year-old a crayon and say, draw me a line and tell me where Mr. Slithery the Snake is going to slither to next. Where is he going to go? The simplicity of the logic. That way. He's going up the mountain, right? Stupid analogy, but there's a very important point there, is that parts of trading don't have to be too complicated. A 5-year-old could figure it out, right? Just it's the logic of it. Just to make a point, trading is not easy. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying certain things, the logic of it stands true, and even a 5-year-old can see it if you train yourself to see it like a 5-year-old. So we have a potential reversal, right, on Aussie CAD. We were just talking earlier about an Aussie pair that makes a lot more sense. This is the one. Aussie CAD, there's very likely going to be a very good trade coming here. Mark that one down. We got a nice morning star kind of reversal here. This feels like it may be a range, so I want to be careful here. Only going to be taking pullbacks on this. If this starts to pull back, I might give it a shot, and maybe that's the low, and look for a higher low W. Sometimes it'll make that kind of like higher low W thing. We'll see if that happens. What I am looking to do is every time we make a new low, I'm looking to buy this thing. It's an easy call. We already know on the upside where we're looking. We're definitely going to be looking there for a potential stall. We're going to be looking here for a potential stall. Just very simply, supply and demand, and this has nothing to do with the entry and exit strategy, but just the structural logic of what we're looking for. I think it's probably time to start paying attention to this. We broke all this macro swing low back here. It's just likely due for a retracement, for a relief rally. So we're going to be 100% watching Aussie CAD. It's already marked. We've already talked about this one. Without getting into what we're looking for. And again, we'll be watching the range tool for this, for group people. Aussie CAD, it's going to be the money. We're going to put these pips in the bag on Aussie CAD this week. Dollar CAD, same thing. Tried to go long on this last week and it went a little bit and then dumped again. So womp womp on that one. The dollar has been weaker. Now we'll see if that stays that way, and which would be a good segue to go into the equities market, which is what we're about to look at. But the dollar itself, we're going to watch the equities market, and we're going to talk about that next. Again, just simple supply and demand. Where were your buyers that have not been stopped out? And then what's underneath it? Maybe we'll be watching down here. We'll see where that lies within our range, within our weekly and daily ranges. Had the epic short here off the high. Again, just been in and out of this. I actually tried to go long on this last week, and it went up a little bit and then dumped immediately. So good game. I was just trying to catch back into here on these buyers, and it just went through. No big deal. Sometimes it doesn't go. It wasn't a bad trade. It wasn't a bad risk of capital. But yeah, these buyers didn't hold, and it pushed through. So now we're just going to be looking at the next lowest level down and probably below that. Generally, they'll screw everybody and go through it, and everybody's like, oh my god, it's going down, and then it rips back the other way because everybody starts selling the breakout, and that's why we don't do that. Actually just made a video for the group the other day of why we don't buy high and sell low, and an example like this is what kind of partly what we were talking about. This is already down. This will have been down significantly by the time it gets down there. So when we get down here, we're going to be looking to scale in below that swing low. Just to throw you guys a bone on YouTube, if you're watching this. Next, moving on, but looking at the dollar, what this tells me is that either the dollar is likely to go lower or the CAD is likely to be a little higher, or both. What I think is going on is the dollar is moving down faster than the CAD is what I feel like is happening here. So I feel like we may have a little bit weaker to go on the dollar. However, let's see what happens on this next candle. 7 minutes to a new 4 hour. Now, moving on, equities, the U.S. equities market, indices of equities. S&P is kind of a mess overall. It's consolidating, but it's making higher lows. I wouldn't be a huge fan of buying into this right this second. However, I'm aware that, price action wise, and again, we're just looking at price action right now and not, any kind of strategy. And we're going to get into that in a few minutes. When this new 4 hour candle opens, we'll see if there's any more entries here. But right now, today, we've basically got a weaker dollar. The yen may be about to make a retracement, by the way. The yen is starting to put in a pattern on the strength tool that looks like it may be flattening out to go stronger. So we'll watch yen. Aussie yen is going to be something to watch. Aussie yen, euro yen, pound yen, but Aussie yen specifically. S&P 500, we'll see what happens when we get up there into the selling toward the high. Last chance to make a lower high right here. If it's going to make a lower high, this is the last chance. So, and we've had a big, huge expansion here. Just short-term price action, just to keep it real here. We've had a broken low and a broken high. Range expansion. Again, think of the distance that this has had to travel in the amount of time that it's had to do it. These kinds of moves are the ones that pull back the most. These expansion moves. We want expanding markets, not contracting markets, right? So we'll watch this and see where that level is, that 4130-ish on within our range tool. We'll see. This is the one, the NASDAQ. We're short NASDAQ this morning. I am personally. This is very different structurally. We've got a higher high here. Big, huge higher high. Big peak, stronger high, higher high, same thing. This one probably has the potential to outperform to the downside. Only short, we're getting our center mass rejection. It's not even making it up there. I mean, this is dropped and it's just struggling here. What's likely to happen is this is going to do this kind of thing. So we're only looking for shorts. We're not trying to buy any NAS right now. Don't be that guy. We're not watching 1 minute candles here. We're trying to catch a distance move with low risk, not swing trading, but day trading. We're trying to capture the majority of the daily candle and potentially the weekly candle with runners. So right now, like the Michael Jordan meme, it's like, stop it, get some help. Like, stop buying this. Like, get some help. Look at it. It's on a big higher high. Stop it. Get some help. Like, this is extremely risky to be buying this up here. That doesn't mean that it can't go higher, but we're talking about risk management. Risk management. We have to manage our risk on these kinds of things. This thing is way up here on a peak high. Not trying to buy the highest high in the last Year almost. Last 9 months. Not trying to do that. So NASDAQ, we're short here this morning, and short from the absolute high, but I already hit my target. And part of it was this. I took I think it was only 5 micro lots, but it ran pretty good. And that, along with some other things, already hit my $500 target. And this was a part of it. Caught the absolute high. I sold the high of the day on Friday, basically. Right before the market closed, sold the high of the day. I knew it was a good idea. Boom, there we go. Absolutely, it was 13,196. It went to 13,197. Got it within $1 basically, a couple dollars. So want to be short bias here. I do. I'm just saying what I'm doing, again, not financial advice. But I think it's logic at this point. Dow, a little bit different situation. Again, the NASDAQ was up disproportionately high relative to the other major indices, the big three, the S&P, the Dow, and the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ was up disproportionately. I think people have been hiding in tech and software, been hiding their money in tech and software lately, as all this mess has happened. Funny enough, because a lot of the tech and software companies are the ones that were involved with SVB. So, go figure. But probably you got a previous high right there. Just assuming that that's going to break. Where's your next point? Probably be watching that. I don't think that's going to happen this week. So, we'll just watch that. That'll probably be a couple weeks from now. But the Dow, same situation, different structure. If these start to tear down, then the dollar is likely to make the inverse move. So we'll watch that. And we're kind of watching the stock market indices to kind of get an idea on what the dollar is going to do. The VIX is pretty low. We're under 20 again on the VIX. Do what you want with that. Every time it gets down here, we're generally looking at some kind of volatility event in the equities market. Under 20 again. Oil, interesting today on oil. We're trying to hurry up through this. I know we got stuff to do here. Try to find some trades too. However, not really getting a lot other than a weaker dollar today. So, oil, big, huge move up here early. Looks like it's come down a little bit, but we wanted to be, long off the bottom. We nailed this. We caught this a couple days ago. Mr. Slithery the snake, slithering down the mountain, up the mountain and down the mountain. Which way is he likely to go next? We're back coming up toward the range high here, though. And because we broke the low, there's a potential that we could expand the range because this is down significantly. Oil has been down a lot over the last year, really. We've been straight to the downside, and it started to stabilize down here, and we're going into a range. Eventually, this is going to break the high. When this gets up back to these previous equal highs up here, we're going to be looking to potentially start scaling into some shorts. I might leave it alone for now. Within a day trade is a different story. Oops. Emergency alarm. We got our new 4-hour candle here. We'll watch this. I'm not buying it up here. I'm absolutely not buying oil after that kind of a move. That's not getting a good deal. That's not good risk management. Unless you're looking at a 1-minute chart or something like that. So whatever on that, we'll wait and see. Might wait until it breaks that swing high right here at $80. It already did, but if it puts in a high of the day somewhere, we'll take a look at it. Kind of no trade for me right now. Silver, big, huge move up. Back up to the highs. This is, again, has a huge potential for a pullback. One of these days this week, this is probably going to pull back significantly. We'll watch this. It's not in a good spot right now. So silver, again, just quickly, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this. We're right in between swing high and swing low, right dead smack in the middle, just like the rest of the market. It is early Monday. Gold. Caught a really good trade on this on Friday. We caught the high on Friday, pretty close. Had 2 entries on this. Had one on like right here on the rejection. It popped up just a little bit on the news and then ate dirt. So we caught this short and I closed it out, killed it. Look at where this is though. We're in a range contraction that's rolling over, making lower highs on one of the highest highs in history for gold. So just keep that in mind. This is not low, and it's being driven by hype right now with the bank stuff. And as that bank stuff starts to kind of slowly fade away out of the news and something else takes over, like Donald Trump getting arrested or whatever, election season stuff, all the political arguments are starting to flare up because it's election season. As that bank stuff starts to fade away from the news cycle, we got this short news cycle in the United States, at least. You got this 24-hour and 48-hour news cycle where, it's just like it's all the rage, and then all of a sudden you don't hear about it again. There's a lot of that been happening. So just be aware that gold caught a lot of this bid here because of that. Bitcoin caught a lot of the bid because of that. If that starts fading out of the news, how many times have we seen this? Everybody will forget about it and be like, maybe it's time to take some profit on gold. All that crazy gold run we got there, I think it was up $165 in a couple of days. Maybe we should probably take some profit here. So see how that goes. Remember where it is. We nailed this on Friday. Everybody was buying gold up here, and I was like, bruh. So right dead smack in the middle between our highs and lows. There's not really any disproportionate risk versus reward here. It's probably best to stay out of it and focus on something that has a little more potential. However, within a day trading context, I'm sure there's going to be some pullbacks, and one of the, we're going to reach for the highs or the lows, right? And I think kind of what I'm saying is there's no real confirmed directional bias here yet. We've got a contracting market. I don't do the trend line thing, but to illustrate without having to, circle the swing highs on everything, we'll just do it that way. I generally just circle the highs and lows to make the point. We have a contracting market. We have progressively reduced volatility structurally over time. And it's coming down into a point that generally is not great, and it generally resolves to the downside. And what it really is, what's really happening is there's a range here, and it will pick a side either down or up, one of the two, and it may try to go up again and break that high, but not the overall high, and then do that. So it's hard to make a determination here with gold directionally, because we're basically hovering right around that equilibrium within that range contraction. And it's just not a great time to make a decision, in my opinion. It's just the way that I see the market. It's not a great time to make that determination on what you should do. And we can watch it on lower time frames and, try to figure out where we are within our range. What I really like to see is a break of the low or a break of the high. What I really want to see is a break of this high so I can short it, and try to catch the high of whatever range consolidation is happening right now. But at the moment we're contracting. We have lower highs and higher lows. Do you really want to buy this up here? And it's, again, everybody may have a different interpretation, but what I see is something that is incredibly high that was caused by something that's potentially fading out of the news cycle. And on top of that, just from experience, in my experience, these types of moves that happen at the top of a market cycle, they tend to resolve to the downside. It's just my interpretation of it. We're going to see what happens. We'll see. Again, not putting my money where my mouth is on this one, because I wouldn't take that kind of trade. Maybe if there's a day trade or some scalp that's hitting an important level that's likely to make a rejection, I may take like a couple hour trade on this, but realistically, I don't really see anything here. So what are the cliff notes? Like what's the prognosis, Doc? A lot of ranging markets. Bitcoin in a market. I mean, crypto, a large cap crypto is in a ranging market. I'd like to see it go higher so I could short it. However, we'll see what happens with this. This stuff tends to pull the Bart Simpson, and we'll get this kind of thing where you get this kind of pattern, and it does something like this, and then it does that, and then one of these, and then something like that. That tends to be the type of movement that Bitcoin likes to do. So we'll see what happens there. Dollar, again, not the greatest point. We're right in the middle of a range. You know, what are our main tenets here of the market that we're going to be watching? The dollar's right in the middle. It's Monday. We do have some news coming in, but it's something. ISM manufacturing PMI at 10. It's generally not a market moving event. The yen, waiting to see if it bounces off the low. Again, waiting. There's a couple of the Aussie pairs that are interesting. Most of the market is in this rangy continuation of these ranges from last week. Last week was really messy and rangy, and I'd really like to see us get out of that this week, to be honest. There are some things that do have a very good, very attractive proposition here. Euro Aussie is one of those. Some of the Aussie pairs. Euro CAD is another one of those if it would pull up, but Euro Aussie is probably one of those things that you want to focus on. I think Aussie CAD was another one of those, for the same reason, just different direction. Watch anything with the Aussie in it, anything with the CAD in it, the yen in it this early this week, and we'll see what happens. But for the most part, we got a whole bunch of ranging mess here. Try to keep it safe, keep your risk management under control here. Not the best time to YOLO most of this stuff because we're right in the middle. Again, no disproportionate risk versus reward. Pound Aussie was the other one. Watch Euro Aussie, Pound Aussie for big moves this week, potentially. And again, you know, we'll just play it by ear. It's Monday, just trying to get an idea on where we are, what we're looking for. NASDAQ, watch the NASDAQ. Euro Aussie, Pound Aussie, NASDAQ, Aussie CAD. You know, if I had to pick some today to focus on, and we'll see where we go with it. Gonna switch over and do some group stuff here, try to actually catch some trades. Hope everybody has a good morning, and we'll see you on the next one.